Week 1 is in the books. Doom doom, as they say on NFL Game Day. It is shut. It is locked in. Peter, well, only one of our teams managed to win this week. But how are we all doing?
Yeah, no, I'm doing great. It was definitely an eventful week one. Like let's calm down on those overreactions. It is
No,
just
no, no.
week one.
It's overreaction Tuesday. We must
It's a
apologize.
reaction week, bro.
It's
Yeah.
overreaction. We must come
All I'm
up with every
saying,
single bold
reason is
statement as much
doom
as
and
we can.
gloom. Yeah. But yeah, no, some upsets happened across the board, good things and bad things, some absolutely shocking games, some really interesting games as well. So we have a lot to talk about really, and I can't wait to get to it because almost like every game had a takeaway. That's what I like about it. Sometimes you have games where it's like, yeah, no one cares about that game anyway. We knew what was going to happen, but we got a lot of
Well,
surprises.
there's a
So
lot of
yeah,
intrigue
can't wait
going
to.
on in the league. That's the thing. It wasn't
Oh
plain
yeah, yeah,
sailing
no,
for many games.
absolutely, yeah. But yeah, that my Eagles did do well, so I'm not gonna rub that in, but because we barely got out of there, but we'll get down to that when we get down to that. So
I know
yeah.
you're gonna hate on Jalen Hurts anyway, even though you won.
I would say I'm gonna hate on him. I'm just
But
gonna state what's the obvious, but
Peter,
I'm just gonna
how did you find
hate.
week 1?
Week one was interesting. Certain scores, there were some surprises in some of the scores that happened in week one in some of the games, things that were unexpected. But with the NFL season, it's always like I don't know why we, as NFL fans, enthusiasts, and podcasters, we should be used to this. Week one, this was going to be a surprise, you
Yeah,
know,
especially with the shortened preseason.
exactly because I think week one there's always a surprise. Certain teams come out and you're like, "Ooh, I didn't expect that from this team," and all that kind of stuff. So it was a very interesting week.
It most definitely was. Well, first of all, on the list of games that we're going to talk about was the Monday night game. Fresh in our thoughts, Denver, Seattle, the revenge game for Russell Wilson, and it ended in the most ridiculous ending. 4th and 5 with over a minute to go, and they let the clock go down to 20 seconds, and then
yep,
they kicked the field goal, and then when they missed the field goal, they take a timeout. Why?
yep. I always say like with week one you have jitters. A lot of these guys didn't play in the preseason. The coaches as well are more evaluating rather than coaching, so it's them learning on the job. Hackett is like like a new head coach. He hasn't necessarily got experience, so he's gonna learn from this. Like clock management is an art form. You've got guys like Andy Reid that are like 3 snaps into the future with their clock management. So this is something he's gonna have to like learn and learn quickly. Um, I'm disappointed. Not on Russell Wilson, but well, I'm
Russell
not gonna
Wilson,
hold
I'll
him
give
completely
you stat
exempt.
line. I'll give you
Yeah, he
stat line.
played good.
29 for 42, 340 yards and a touchdown, 0 INTs, passer rating of 101.3. What was
But here's the
surprising
Sounds
thing,
was
like
though.
that
sounds like he showed
here's
up
the
to
thing:
work. You know?
2 drives stopped on the one by
Hmm.
fumbles by the running backs.
By the running
12
backs. Yep,
points minimum.
yep. That's turnovers right there.
Here's the thing, though.
6 points at
Yes,
worst case scenario. You know what I mean?
And there were bad fumbles as well.
that decision in the fourth quarter was an atrocious one. Like, there's no excuses for Nathaniel
Inexcusable,
Hackett
completely and utterly
because you've
inexcusable.
got Russell Wilson at quarterback, and you just got to go
Can
for it.
you can you imagine them doing that with Peyton Manning? No
That's not
chance.
gonna happen. You know what I mean?
He
It
would
was
order
four
that
yards to
out.
It ain't
get.
happening.
It was 4 yards
Yeah,
to get,
I did.
and
But also, I kind of feel like should Russell have asserted it more? Like, just go to the kind of like go to the head coach and be like, no, I got this. We're not
It's
kicking here. let us drive the ball down the field, because this is
Absolutely.
what you've always wanted us as. I'm going to put a little bit of Russell Wilson here. This is what you've always wanted. You always wanted to be that quarterback that the offense runs through you. Now you're a team that they believe in you. The offense is going to run through you. In that critical situation, yes, the coach might be going for a field goal, but you need to assert a bit of authority and say that I can get this 4 and 5. I can convert this. So let's go for it. Let me convert it, and let's see where it takes us if we get closer. And stuff.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I was watching the Manning cast with Finn. We were both in a Discord chat, like watching the game, and you should have just seen the look on Shannon Sharp. Shannon Sharp was on the cast at the time, and he was like, firstly, they were saying, he was a firm believer that Javonte Williams needs to be the number 1 running back.
He has to be. He was averaging almost 8 yards a carry.
Right? For numerous series, they had Melvin Gordon in there, and Javonte Williams wasn't getting on the field. The theory is Javonte Williams should be number 1, and if he's feeling tired, that's where Melvin comes in. Enough of this running back by committee. It's week 1. It may only be week 1, but this was a game they should have been curb stomping the opposition. This is a Seattle team that fundamentally really isn't that great. And if you look at the way that they were playing defensively, Geno Smith, 23 for 28, 195 yards and 2 touchdowns, pass rating of 119.5. They made him look very good.
They did, but regardless of how,
he did get the ball out very quickly as well. He did negate the pass rush in the majority.
That's true. But no matter how quickly he did, it was still like 17 points at the end of the day. If you told Russell Wilson's going to go back to Seattle and not score more than 16 points, I wouldn't have believed you. I thought this was a shoe and he was going to go in there. I look at his yardage, like, okay, 340 yards, 1 touchdown. You expect more touchdowns. You expect him to throw at least 2 or 3 touchdowns. The Broncos to score 20 plus points at least, because that offense has weapons. But I think the emotion going back there, the stadium, all of that also played a factor into it. Because yes, he had lots of passing yards, but I don't think this was Russell Wilson at his best, I would say.
It wasn't him at his best. There were times where at the end, particularly at the end, he didn't give the team the opportunity. Well, the drive before the end, he didn't give the team the opportunity the players the opportunity to catch the ball. But what I will say is that when you get the ball down to the 1 yard line, you've got to punch it in at least one of those times. Not fumble the ball. That's the key to the loss.
Yeah, that was a huge deficiency there.
Number 1 key to the loss was the running backs fumbling the ball. Number 2 is what on earth was that clock management?
Awful.
Yeah, but that's something.
Then a brutal division.
That's something they're going to take away and learn from. You know, they're going to have to sort of have a look at that, and I think that's on the coaches. You know, obviously people say, yeah, Russell, he could have called it as well, but he's trying to focus on winning a game. You know, but it's something that he is more than capable of doing. But yeah, no, I think it was completely mismanaged.
Next week though, at home, they got the Texans.
I mean, this was meant to be a tune-up game, and we see how it turns off. Like in the NFL, you can't take any game for granted. No. You know, from the recent Texans game, you can't take any team for granted. So it's going to be interesting to see how they bounce back. Like for me in particular, I think regardless of how you felt about how they were moving the ball on offense and them having to get those 4 yards, you've got to die on that flag. You've literally got to say, hey, listen, rather than put our kicker out. And I think if you look at it, he was going for the second longest field goal attempt in NFL history. So you mean to tell me you're basically like, nah, we're not going to try and go for 4. Let's try and go for the second. Yeah, let's try and go for the second longest field goal in NFL history instead. Yeah, let's do that. Like, no problem. Let's put that on the line. Like, come on.
It makes no sense.
It makes no sense. If this was like a lot closer, you know, maybe like the 20th longest, hey, I can see it. But this is the second. This is a historically great kick. Like, you're putting that on the line. You have to get
And
4
it's a
yards.
sea
Die on
level.
that flag. Yeah, you've got to die
Oh.
on that flag.
Plus, the kicker has never made a 60-yarder in his life, so how can we trust
He
him at
missed
that
it in
point?
warm-ups. There was footage. He missed it in warm-ups. So
No, someone did a history. Every time he's been called to make a 60-yard plus field goal, he's missed. So how could you not know this as like his track record? He's not Justin Tucker like
yeah.
Shannon Sharp said on this
And even then, a kick like that isn't. That's one you make. If you really, as a kicker, you should never have to make that kind of kick your whole
No,
career.
he has made a 61-yarder.
That's 61, and he was even lucky. No, but how many has he missed though?
Yeah.
At
How
that
many has he
range,
missed?
anything across half field.
But to be
'Cause
honest,
he's
I
missed
don't
a lot
think
of
he struck,
60-yarders.
I don't think he struck that ball badly in that kick.
Yeah.
It was a stupid decision by the team.
The
to
length,
make.
yeah. Hackett
All
will
right,
will
we'll
learn
move
from
on.
that. He'll
We'll
take
move
that
on to
away.
the next game. And the next game we're going to talk about my homeboys went into Arizona and cooked those Cardinals. He really cooked. He looked very, very good in that game. Cardinals, they looked like they were missing offensive pieces.
They were missing offensive pieces. They were. I'm not. Before Pete, I let Pete have the floor. I mean, this might sort of rile you up a bit, Pete, but to me, I think you might agree. It kind of looks like they weren't prepared. And I'm not talking from a talent standpoint or a personnel standpoint. It looks like the coach didn't prepare them for what they were going to see on the field and the assignments that they needed to make. Because when you play like that, it's not because your team's talented. All right. When you play like that, it looks as though something was wrong with the preparation. So in the week before, and people have to understand, like the first game of the season, teams prepare all off season for this game. All right. And then it's a week by week basis, you know? Then you get the bye week, then you get a good 2 weeks there. But people prepare for this game. So there should have been a game plan. There should have been an answer for whatever you thought could come out there. You know what I mean? Even though it is Kansas City, you were missing playmakers, but I don't think that was an excuse.
The missing playmakers doesn't constitute to the scoreline of being for giving 44 points away to the opposition at home.
Mm-hmm.
Correct?
Well, that's what happens when you hire a mediocre, when you hire defensive coordinator who doesn't know how to develop young talent at the end of the day. So basically, offensively, the team got into a groove in the second half. You're right, Will. I agree with you. The team was unprepared. And I like what Carlos said at his post-match press conference, like, practice habits, all of that don't matter. You lost the game at the end of the day. You got your behind kicked in, and they Kansas City deserved. They dominated the game from start to finish. They seem like they were more prepared for the game than Arizona was, and that's why it comes down to. And to me, I laid this loss on the head of Cliff Kingsbury. He's the main reason why we lost the game, because it's week one.
Mm-hmm.
Previously, the team's always been prepared for week one. The last 3 seasons, or the last 3 or 4 seasons that he's been there, we've always looked ready to go in week one. So,
do you know what happened
wrong
last
this
weekend?
time? What happened last weekend?
Call of Duty had a double XP weekend.
Oh my god! Hey, I'll tell you what. I don't think that played a role in this, but it's not helping Kyler's situation. You know what I mean? It's not helping because everyone assumes when they say the team didn't look prepared, they're like, who has to prepare? Who has to prepare the most on that team? It's the quarterback. He's got to be ready for this. So it's gonna make him look bad, and he knows the optics aren't good. But it's not his fault. Both sides of the ball didn't look kind of clueless.
So here's the thing.
Wait. What do you think his quarterback rating was in this game? Without looking at it, I
don't know.
But that's me asking.
I don't know.
99.3.
It's out of 100, isn't it?
No. The one
That's
which is
QBR.
150 something.
Oh, okay.
The,
But I
the,
mean,
the
his
perfect is
numbers.
almost 158.3. That's the perfect passer rating.
Yeah.
And it's 99.3.
Yep.
So Kyler didn't play bad. He played okay. It's not like he didn't play
Mm.
He played
as high
okay, but
as.
he didn't play great.
Yeah,
And I
but he
think
didn't play great because the whole team looked unprepared. That's what I'm trying to say. At the end of the day, what I'm saying is that I don't lay. Sorry, excuse me. This loss is not on what you call it. It's not on Kyler Murray. It's not on the players. I put this loss firmly on the coaches, both Cliff and Vance, because you're playing week one. You're supposed to get a team ready, and they were not ready to play Kansas City Chiefs. The thing is that he continues to blitz. He blitzed Mahomes 36 times, and none of them resulted in a sack. So why do you
people
keep
realize
blitzing?
you don't blitz Mahomes. He'll make you
But
pay.
No,
that's the
it's
thing,
very
though.
dangerous.
If that's what you guys that's the correct thing. If you did your homework as a defensive coordinator, you know play coverage, rush for, and don't blitz him because he's so good against the blitz. Mahomes knows his keys, he knows his hots, and he's developed further and he spread the ball around. And the Chiefs, we couldn't stop anybody, and the defense was bad. A big critical point for me is that coming into the season, you decided, okay, you're gonna give the green dot on the defense to Isaiah Simmons and have him call the defensive plays and have him step up. Knowing this, why did you not play him in all three preseason games? Play him, let him get a feel for it. Sometimes people think preseason. I know there's the injury factor, but there's also a reason why the elite teams always get their starters out to play preseason, even if it's just for a
Only for
series or two.
a couple of series.
The only for a series or two, not for long. You play him for like one or two series, just so that he can get a feel of what his responsibilities are going to be. For instance, Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, he played in the preseason. He only played like one series, but that is to get him into the groove.
Get
There are
that brain
certain
rust
players
because
that always say that they play preseason. Like for instance, Shannon Sharp said, I always, even if the starters were not playing, I always asked to play one series. I just want to catch the ball, get hit, get myself ready for the season. So I think I'm just speaking for all the teams out there. The Cardinals is just a prime example to the Cardinals themselves and other teams in the NFL why preseason matters. It's not just about trying to avoid injuries, but it's just so that your offensive unit can have cohesion. I mean, today, one of the veteran linebackers we had in the offseason, Nick Vigil, was saying that in week one, our loss to the Chiefs was due to a lot of miscommunication. And the first time the starting defense has sort of like played together as a whole. I'm like, that's ridiculous. As coach, you should know, let me get my guys out in preseason series, let them get the communication right, even if it's a vanilla type of game, to get a cohesion right for week one. That's why you do all these preparations.
Mm.
And it just didn't mind the way that it looked unprepared. And Cliff Kingsbury was going about practice habits and stuff. You're the head coach, bro. You're supposed to get a team ready. So now we're playing the Raiders. I know Devontae Adams going to cook our cornerback because we got the worst cornerback group on the league at the moment. Our cornerback group is not strong at all. Wait, is that me?
that's well. I just muted him for a sec.
Our cornerback room is not the strongest at the moment, so I know Devontae Adams, those wide receiving cars are gonna come to play. I think offensively, Kyler usually when he plays bad in the regular season, so far as I know, he comes off the next game and he plays better early in the season. So I think the offense will play better next week. I don't know what we're gonna get from the defense next week. I mean, it could be same and it could be horrible again. So
Okay, so my 2 cents. Well, my quick 2 cents on the Cardinals. The key actually for the loss was that running game just didn't get going from an offensive point of view. You look at James Conner, 10 attempts, 26 yards. It doesn't help when when he's not able to get a rhythm in the running game. He did a bit better. He did catch 5. He caught 5 passes for 29 yards, but it doesn't help because it doesn't provide balance to the offense, especially when you're missing a player like DeAndre Hopkins. You need to provide that balance, otherwise the other offensive pieces can't work. But Patrick Mahomes in this game 30 for 39, 360 yards, 5 touchdowns. Passer rating of 144.2. Near perfect. And then you look at Isaiah Pacheco.
Mm.
He played well in this game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wasn't he injured? Was he injured as well? Coming off injury?
No, he wasn't. He played in the preseason for the Chiefs. He was actually good. The thing
12
is,
rushes, 62 yards, and a touchdown.
I knew that was going to happen because the Cardinals' run defense was atrocious. We couldn't stop the run. We couldn't stop the pass. You have J.J. Watt, who's injured at the moment, so that affects the defensive line. When he plays, his impact now, as he's getting older and ages in the run game, he's at least able to help our run defense. And going into the offseason, I think in that menace, our GM, who I don't know if he's got blackmailing tapes on the owner. For the last 10 years, he has horrible draft classes, poor free agent acquisitions, and he's still got a job and he just got his contract renewed. I don't know what the owner is seeing in this GM that he keeps renewing his contract. And in hindsight, it kind of feels like Cardinal fans are stuck in a limbo a little bit because we are like, we want the team to do well, but if the team do well, the general manager is not getting fired. And every Cardinals fans don't like the general manager. So what do we wish for? Do we want the team to lose and then he gets fired, or do we want the team? Because anytime let's say for the rest of the year, Kyler Murray goes to the next level, plays unbelievable, and we manage to win 9 or 10 games, he gets credit. But I'm just thinking to myself, you don't deserve any credit.
You don't want to keep him there. Yeah,
it was not your doing.
That's the ultimate tug of war going on with fans. It's an inner conflict that I think everyone has experienced.
See, one thing I love about your GM, Harry Roseman, is that he learns from his mistakes and he goes for it and builds a better roster. Our GM is just so terrible.
Right. Any other thoughts on the Chiefs themselves?
I think,
brilliant.
Like I said, I feel pretty good about my pick of Philip for winning the division. I think they're still going to win the AFC West. I don't see them losing that division, and I feel very confident.
Yeah, no, the Chiefs just look well oiled. You can't.
They looked extremely well oiled.
Quick question: are you going to change your picks now, or do you still believe in your picks for the AFC West?
It's not about changing them. They're locked in.
I'll keep them. They're locked in, man. I ain't changing them.
They're before the season picks. You can't change them. It's like
my hope was just that I wanted to fail.
It's like a cannot edit.
To have it.
It's a vault. You cannot open that.
Lock and key, locked away.
No, we gotta allow for mid-season reviews now.
Yeah, we can review, but we ain't changing.
One of my picks has already gone out the window.
It doesn't matter. You reserve the right to review mid-season.
Speaking of the game that it went out the window, the next game that we're going to talk about is Pittsburgh and Cincinnati.
Oh man!
And my pick for Defensive Player of the Year has torn his boob. Yeah, he torn his pec. And potentially,
he said he'll be back though.
He said he'd be back
if he's not on injured reserve.
And if he's on, but that's 4 weeks.
He can come back from that.
If he's not back by then, he's done for the season.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. But I think they'll know after his surgery.
He's not having the surgery.
He's not having it.
Apparently he doesn't need it.
Okay, so this is like you just got to.
So is it gonna rest on rehab and try and hopefully get? Hopefully gets
okay, that's really promising then. That's really promising.
That's one theory. He could end up in 6 weeks' time. They may just say, "Oh no, he's got to have surgery." You never know.
It's torn pec, so that's shredded muscle fibers. Yeah, that stuff's gonna take time to heal.
There's
but
something about the Watt brothers and tearing their pecs. Correct, Peter? Because we've had JJ Watt have this as well.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, I think
style of play, maybe.
I think it's a genetic makeup. You know, some people are just genetically very durable. Some people, they push themselves to the max, and that can result in injuries.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate that the Watt brothers have, the injury bug, but they push themselves to the max, and they're great players.
It also depends
sometimes genetically.
As a trainer, it also depends on like your physiology, like how are you built. If you have like longer limbs, for example, um, i- you're a much bigger target. So if you get your arms behind you, there's a lot less move. Well, you can reach far, but also at the same point, your pec can be stretched out a lot more. And it's the same, like if you had shorter limbs, it's a lot harder to sort of get them caught up when you have to wrap someone around. And, as edge rushers, these guys can get around real quick, and they always lean, they always have their hand out, stretching for that QB, stretching for something behind them. And it can happen like that. So it just comes with the territory. But it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. But I think the Steelers in this win, even though they've shown
Were they
that
lucky?
I think it's a bit of luck, but then it's also I think a huge. I mean, it really shows what they have down there. This team
They have
finds a way to win games. I just don't get it. It should have been over with McPherson's kick twice, 2 times over,
Yeah, the blocked one and then the missed one.
and the missed one. So this game should have been over, but they found a way to hang in there. They found a way to just keep swinging, and they pulled through in the end.
There's something in the water for the kickers this week.
Yeah.
Because the kicking was atrocious across the league.
Yep.
Absolutely terrible. And,
Across the board.
well, we'll get onto it later, but one of the kickers has already lost his job because of it. McPherson isn't that one. But in this game, Joe Burrow threw the ball 53 times, was intercepted 4 times. Didn't he lose a fumble as well? He
Yep.
lost one fumble.
Yep.
He lost one fumble. So he
Yep.
coughed the ball up 5 times in this game.
Yep. Didn't they spend a lot of money in the offseason on offensive line? And
It's week one.
Did they use picks?
they acquired some pieces to help bolster the offensive line.
Yes.
And you're looking back and it's literally deja vu. So I know it's week one. Don't want to overreact.
It's week one.
But this is what they tried to fix.
I'm going to overreact. Okay, so they actually did a good job
for times to come
of fixing it, of fixing the offensive line. But it's just a case of it's going to take a while for that offensive line to gel. And the problem, I'm going to go back to what I said at the beginning of our podcast. I'm not starting to understand why preseason, in a way, kind of like matters, right? I know we want to avoid injuries in preseason, but at the same time, that cohesion is that there's certain positions whereby the guys have to play together to be able to get to gel, and that's the offensive line. New PCs week one, you've got to be able to gel together. Otherwise, when you face a high-powered defense like the Steelers, they could mess up your offensive lineup because the guys are not used to playing each other. Playing offensive line is about the 5 of you working as one unit, and that's the key about playing. You can have 5 talented guys, but if they don't work in cohesion with each other, it will look like a mess. And that's what's happened with the Bengals offensive line. Now, Joe Burrow's going to be fine.
I think he'll be fine.
He'll be okay.
I think Joe Burrow will be all right.
Joe Mixon had a great game, personally, for him.
And Chase did as well. Chase had
129 yards off 10 receptions, 16 targets, and a touchdown. Whereas Joe Mixon had 27 rushes for 82 yards and had 7 receptions off 9 targets for 63 yards. So 145 yards from scrimmage, which is very good from a running back. And I've always known that Joe Mixon is extremely talented. He's always had that talent. We've always known he's capable. He's always capable of. And this isn't exactly a difficult. This isn't an easy Pittsburgh Steelers defense to play against.
It's never easy against the Steelers defense.
They've got.
Well, they made him work for that 82 yards, so that's like 3 yards per carry.
Pardon?
Yep.
They made him work for that 82 yards.
Yeah, 82 over 27 is
3 per
3
carry.
yards per carry, so it's
Averaging 3 yards, yeah.
That means that he had to grind it out because they were not going to give him big rushes.
But then him in the passing game really worked.
Oh yeah, he was really good.
Because he was averaging 9 yards a catch. From a running back, that's a very good. Because you're obviously coming out of the backfield the vast majority of the time. You look at the Steelers, Mitch.
Mitchie, 21 for
Make an error.
38, 194
No,
yards, 1 TD.
It didn't look good, but didn't make an error.
No, it doesn't matter.
Did you see that non-catch? Deontay Johnson?
Oh yeah, that was a great catch.
Oh my god!
That was a
Yeah.
great catch. He's a
Well,
very
it
underrated
wasn't a catch
receiver.
though, was it? It was out of
No.
bounds.
No, they ruled it out, but it was a great snag though. Here's my piece.
That would have been my baller player of the week, but it's
Yeah.
They need to go to Kenny Pickett because I'm concerned about the
They
Steelers
won the game,
offense
so
because
they're not going to change the quarterback.
They're not going to do that. They're not going to do that. You know, we know he's going.
Let me finish 1 second. The way the Steelers defense played, if they had competent quarterback play, this game would have been a blowout.
Correct.
But the reason why they can is because of Mitch.
The Bengals.
The reason why I
defense
said
has no mugs either.
It's not. But when your defense have 4 interceptions, right? 4 interceptions. If they were playing the Chiefs, this game would have been over because I fail to believe that Mahomes or Herbert or Aaron Rodgers will get 4 takeaways. The defense gave the ball back 4 times and will not score on at least 2 of them.
Yep.
I mean, I know one was a pick 6, but the 3 that they got back, find a way to score some points.
Here's the thing. I think
turnovers.
Trubisky was sacked in that game.
I don't know, maybe just once or none.
It was just.
Let me
once.
see, just once. I think
But that's
Mitch.
the thing, though. But that's what I'm saying. Mitch is limited. You have to play in a certain way. That's why I'm thinking.
He's serviceable, man.
Halfway through the year, bringing Kenny Pickett. You drafted him in the first round. He played well in preseason. Bring him in, and he'll give you a better chance to win. Because
absolutely,
I don't know, because I was a little bit disappointed in the Steelers offense because I just felt like when you have 3 turnovers, you're supposed to score more than 23 points.
They still can't run the ball.
Yeah.
You look at running the ball with Najee, 10 for 23. Came out of the game with a boot on. But he says he's going to be playing this weekend.
We'll see.
So I think that was more of a precaution than anything else.
Yeah.
But Chase, they used Chase in the running game. 6 for 36.
Chase Claypool, yeah.
Yeah. But passing game was all targets to Freiermuth and Deontay Johnson. Nobody else in that passing game, really.
Yeah, I think we expect more from George Pickens. I kind of expected more from him, but he'll come about, and Chase Claypool as well. I think he's a big body target, so I think he'll get both of those guys I mentioned will get more receiving yards as the season goes on. I want to just talk about Mitch because I think Mike Tomlin's really smart here. Rather than throwing in the rookie into the fire, and if he has a bad game, people will say, you know what, put Mitch in, blah, blah, blah. He's saying, let Mitch play himself out of this role. We're going to move on from him anyway, either at some point this season or next year. Let him play his way out of this role. So he has a bad game. Cool. Then there's no issue here. You go to the rookie and no one's going to be asking for Mitch to come back on the field, So that's what I think he's aiming to do here. And I think we're probably going to see him way sooner than we think. So yeah. And another point I want to add is when you have a game like this where the kicking is so bad, you're going to end up with loads of debates as to why they should remove kicking from the NFL, because you're putting the game on the line.
No, it's part of the game.
It's part of the game, I know, but you always end up with people saying, why do we have to let the game come down to a kick? But that's the team's fault. It shouldn't have to. You know what I mean?
Game.
It shouldn't have to. So
enough with that nonsense.
Yeah.
And now we'll move on. All right, we're gonna go talk about the Thursday night game. Buffalo, LA. And
yeah, I
this
mean,
was not close. This was Buffalo looked like a complete, well-oiled machine.
Yeah, they're firing on all
Allen
cylinders.
in this game was nothing short of fantastic.
You know, for the longest time, I always put Mahomes ahead of Josh Allen cleanly, but now I think these two guys are the pinnacle right now in the NFL as far as the QB position. Taking into account Aaron Rodgers, Bonner, the past era, etc. But I think these two guys are leading. I didn't know. I mean, I
What are
knew
two
Josh
guys?
Allen was
Which
that
two
good.
guys?
Aaron Rodgers. I was gonna say Tom Brady.
No. Who are
Those
the two
guys
guys?
are
The two young guns.
Oh, Mahomes and Josh Allen.
Mahomes and
yeah,
Josh
yeah.
Allen's. I think these two guys are the peak right now because I mean, how do you even begin to stop him? Before it was like usually it's like, okay, cool. He can pass the ball, but not that well. No, he can make every throw. He's accurate, lightning fast passes,
So we were
side
watching this
arms,
game.
and then he's running over players.
We were watching the game together, right?
Yeah.
And there were ones where he only had a slight window to throw the ball, but that gun arm that he's got. He just fired it in so fast. Defender's got no chance.
Yeah. Whenever I see draft evaluations now, when they say this guy's got a cannon for an arm, that's what I expect to see. I don't want to see anything less than that. You know, I think Josh Allen is the blueprint now for cannon arm because it's coming out lightning fast. He can do all those throws. He can do those side arms, no looks.
He has taken, and he's an exception to the rule for the cannon arm players. The majority of cannon arm players aren't that accurate.
He can't do no look.
Yeah.
But he doesn't need
Not
to.
yet. He won't need to, but I think it's within his repertoire.
Does he need to?
This guy's toying defenders.
He's more dangerous in the running game than a Mahomes, I think. Well, it's pretty obvious. He's more
speed and power wise
because of his frame and his speed. And then in the passing game, he wasn't as efficient as Mahomes was this week, but I think he went up against a much more difficult defensive players. But then you looked at the matchup of that week, which was Stephon Diggs versus Jalen Ramsey, and Ramsey got absolutely cooked in this game.
Yep. Taken to school. I think this is a result of maybe not getting the reps he needed. Live reps, scrimmage reps are one thing.
I don't think it's week one rust. I think that's just on the day
preparation.
When
you get shown up that badly, like
sometimes the other guy is just better than you on that day.
Yeah, I mean,
no,
if you look at his scheme, he's man coverage, but he doesn't travel to the other side of the field.
He doesn't.
So he doesn't travel.
They used that against him as well.
Yep.
Listen, hey, if Ramsey wants to join the elites and stuff, he got to bounce back from this and travel. All the legendary cornerbacks are travel cornerbacks, right? To be in that Dion Reeves class, you got to be a traveling cornerbacks. You got to find a number one guy and be like, look, it's me and you going today. I'm going to take you out again. They come close to the other side.
He just sticks to his side of the field, and that's it.
It's almost like
wherever you go, slot, wherever I'm following you. Ramsey got roasted, cooked. He got cooked. He got cooked so bad. It wasn't even just the long bomb. Diggs was just cooking him all game. And the thing about Ramsey is that I think the refs have caught on a little bit and he's had to stop that, which is like he can get a bit handsy sometimes. There's been occasions like in the matchups with DeAndre Hopkins when Hopkins have beaten him before, but because he's handsy, he gets away with a couple of DPIs. It's not just DeAndre Hopkins, right? It's happened a couple of times when he's played Davante Adams as well, where he gets away with a couple of DPI calls, whereby because he's so athletic and he does it, and it's kind of like it's dubious, whereby you, the ref, don't know whether to call it or not to call it. Do you get what I'm saying? But the thing is that he needs to start developing himself and relying on technique more so than athleticism at this point in his career, because all the top elite cornerbacks, their techniques became so good that in the later years they were still playing great. And I think as much as Richard Sherman perfected like being able to hold a little bit and not get called on it, but he always had great technique, and that's what made. Even though he didn't travel and normally often most of the time stuck to one side, it's because he had good technique. And I think Ramsey needs to improve on his technique because a lot of, and we know it's a copycat leagues, and now he'll have a chance to prove that this year because now I can see a lot more teams trying to test him now with their wide receiver number ones and see if we can get some,
Now, if we look at other offensive players for the Bills, Devin Singletary didn't have a lot of yards, but he played very well for what he was used. 8 rushes, 48 yards, and then 2 receptions as well. I think there's potential for him to actually. I think every single time that they bring in a running back to rival Devin Singletary, he steps up. He does something. He's like, no, you're not taking this job.
He's not going to let that. Yeah.
He's not out of this world, but he did what he needed to get done.
I think in terms of like all the backs they have, they've got like a good unit. Zach Moss, I think, is more of their thumper. He's a little bit bigger. Devin Singletary is the balanced guy. But it's good to see that they didn't obviously just sort of relegate him to the bench because of that. He's a young rookie.
He didn't get another rush.
He didn't get another rush, yeah. But it's good to see that they still let him back into the game because I know some coaches are always like, these rookies can't be trusted. We'll play them once we've secured a win, But it's good to see that was there. I'm just going to sort of have a look at the Rams because Cooper Kupp, he went off as always.
It doesn't matter what you do, what game.
Doesn't matter, you can't.
120 yards and a touchdown.
30 receiving, 1 TD. Crazy.
He was basically the offense for that team.
Yep. Exactly. And poor Allen Robinson.
But there were many, 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 many times. He said poor Allen Robinson, and I agree. The number of routes run by those 2 wide receivers was pretty much identical. And there were times, and if you look at the amount of yards of separation that Allen Robinson had, it was big. He just was not targeted. It's as if he was invisible on that field. It didn't matter whether he was wide open. He could have had a flag in his hand saying, over here. Yeah, I'm not throwing you the ball.
Did you see the Matthew Stafford memes?
Yeah, there are many memes.
Yeah, I think
you see the one about the color meme.
Oh, you mean the Family Guy one?
I'm not gonna fully. Yeah. I saw that one. We're not gonna
the Family Guy one
too much, but
I think McVay will point it out in for week 2 that hey, I know you and Cooper had this great connection, but hey, you gotta spread the ball around, man. That's the reason why we got this guy.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is due to that security net because let's be honest, there were times when Cooper Kupp had a guy maybe 2 yards off him or a yard of separation and he still throwed it to him when Allen Robinson was wide open. But that comes from having someone will catch every ball thrown their way. Exactly. And that comes from having someone that will make the catch regardless of what's going on there. Every time you see a quarterback go back to the same guy, it's because he has the utmost faith in practice from last season, knowing this is my guy. Tom Brady had Wes Welker. He always knew he could go back to him. Aaron Rodgers, the now gone Devontae Adams. So it's just one of those things. And I think as the game goes on and they take away Cooper Kupp, because there will be a team that I wouldn't say stop him, but slow him down.
Let's see how week 2 happens and see the stat line, and then let's talk about. Because I think the thing about Cooper Kupp is that he's just picked straight up from last season. That groove that
he hasn't stopped.
He hasn't stopped.
Yeah, so that's going to be dangerous.
He's got a firm belief in his capabilities and his talent. He knows what he's doing, and he knows that he's going to be targeted so many times in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I think about it, it's like
Can
He's
he get the?
just
Do you
found
think
the
he's capable of
ultimate
getting the triple
niche in the
crown again?
NFL, right? He's become he's on his way to become the greatest slot receiver of all time. And I say that with respect in terms of like, there's not, and a lot of these elite cornerbacks on the
The other
outside.
ones
So
got what? Wes Welker and Julian Edelman.
So he's just going to dominate that slot. And he lines up from there a lot. Even if it doesn't mean that he's going to run the
Does he
route
run the
mainly in the
route tree or
slot,
standard
he's
slot
just going
like
to
that?
start
Yeah.
it from the slot.
You start, yeah,
And
no,
then-
and that's hard to defend
And that's what
because
it makes it hard to defend if he starts it from the slot and branch the outside. That makes it so hard for you to defend.
yeah, because if you're a corner, when you line up,
He seems to have the full route tree, but just from inside.
yeah,
Yes.
when you line up as a corner in the slot, the whole field changes. It's no longer what you're used to. You know, you've got the
You've got to move that
sideline as an
side
extra
and that
defender. You're like, no, wait, there's a linebacker outside of me, and everything changes. You know what I mean? So it's hard. I think there are corners that could maybe cover him if he was on an X or Y, if he was out wide. But when
Mhm.
you put him in the inside of the field, suddenly
But he's not
the
always,
extra
he's not
defender you have as
exclusively
the
on inside.
sideline
That's
is
the
no
thing.
longer there. You know what I mean? So you've got to guard more of the field against him. So that opens up a lot of possibilities. One thing I'll add before we sort of move on is that the Rams were in this game early on. You know, they were going back and forth, but I mean, you saw it.
The
Buffalo
sacks
just
killed him.
didn't
Sacks
stop.
killed him.
The sacks killed them, and of course Buffalo just continued to pull away, you know, but the Rams were in there in the start. So I think let's not overreact. They're a good team. They just need to get things back. And I think they'll be fine. I think they'll bounce back. They're too good not to bounce back. But it's good that you have that kind of game early, especially the first game. It wakes up the team and they know this isn't a joke.
One last thing. Cam Akers. What is going on in that situation? 3 rushes, 0 yards. Very rarely on the field. Darrell Henderson would be leading on that field.
I think the answer to this was it was a bit of a lesson from Sean McVay, but at the same time it cost them the game as well. But he missed a pass block and he was in the doghouse.
The offensive line.
Yeah, I know,
good either.
but he missed a pass block, a crucial pass block, resulted in a huge sack of Matthew
He ran
Stafford.
away from it. He ran away from the pass block. Did you see that?
And I got him in the doghouse.
It's an assignment. It's an assignment. It's an assignment. You have all off season to prepare for this one game. It's an assignment you should know, and you mess it up. So
And
that's
as we well know, there's some coaches that won't pull.
You know,
Some coaches
like
don't pull punches.
Like a cartoon character, right? When they're running away from like a big bad villain. That's what it looked like.
Yeah.
I think I don't know. It was so bad. I thought maybe he was doing his job, and they called the wrong play. But I honestly don't know. It looked that bad. It's literally, he looks at the defender and is like, "I'm just gonna go the other way," even though I know I'm just giving you a clear route to a quarterback. The defender was probably looking at him like, "Whoa, you're not gonna try and, stop me? You're just gonna move."
Right. Moving on. The game that was supposed to be close wasn't. It was the NFC North tie between the Green Bay Packers and the Minnesota Vikings. The Packers look bad.
I mean, the Packers had a game like this season opener last year where they got blown out
And they got on the roll.
and they got on a roll. So I think Aaron Rodgers is basically calm because he's like, guys, the same thing happened last year. We'll be fine. We just need to get rid of the cobwebs here. And I think they will be able to get back. It's not anything that they're not capable of.
Guess what Rodgers' pass rating was in that game?
What was it?
What, like 140 something?
100? 90?
67.
What's our Rodgers passer rating?
22 for
Rodgers'
34,
passer.
195,
34,
1 TD.
No interceptions.
Okay.
An interception.
In defense
and a
of
lost
Aaron
fumble.
Rodgers, right?
No, he put
is
the
a
ball
rookie.
literally in the receiver's hands, and he was like,
Exactly. So the receivers, the young receivers is working with, they've got to step up. They're gonna get better as the season goes on, but how quickly they get better is a question here. And I think for the first time ever, we are talking about Green Bay being a team whereby he's not even gonna be like they go as far as Aaron Rodgers can take them. Let's go as far as the receivers can take him. Because it looks like it looks like those guys are going to be the key for their offense producing points. I mean, the opening throw to Christian Watson was a perfect throw, and he beat Patrick Peterson cleanly during the route. He just had to make the catch, and he was in the end zone.
that was a
Make the
house
catch,
wasn't it?
touchdown. But he dropped it, and that's kind of like a bit of a bummer. I still think the Packers will kind of bounce back so far as, and I still think that they'll make the playoffs. Kirk Cousins played very well. I think he's finally found an OC that believes in him in terms of that.
So,
But Justin Jefferson looks like he's about to have a Cooper Cup.
He's about to have a big year.
9
I mean, if he
receptions,
continues
184 yards and 2 touchdowns, including
He's
averaging
ball.
20 yards. Jeez.
God, this kid's so good.
It's crazy.
So
Although the Green Bay Packers cornerback Jair Alexander was mad because he said they didn't let him guard him all game, and that was a strange decision from the defensive coordinator. Because if I have Jair Alexander, who's one of the top 10 cornerbacks in the game, hey, just run around Justin Jefferson. If he cooks you like Ramsey got cooked, so be it. And I think he probably will cook Jair a couple of times.
But those running backs, right? Those two running backs, Cook and Mattison, how many yards per carry are they getting?
I think it's averaging like 5, maybe 4, 5
4.5. Both
per carry.
4.5.
The run game was working, so
Yep.
Run game was working. Passing game was working. Cousins was accurate. 2 touchdowns.
Sounds to me like
Okay.
they've got a change.
The only thing that I would say is that all of the passing game went through one guy. It was all through
Jefferson?
Justin Jefferson.
I mean, Justin Jefferson can't help it if he's
Yeah,
the
but
one getting clean open.
But it's more of, if you look at, because they completed 23 passes, right, out of 32. You look at the target share, he had 9 of those 32 targets. It's a significant target share.
Yeah.
Thielen only had 4 targets on the. Oh no, so he had 11 targets, 9 receptions. So 11 targets out of. So he had a third.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Thielen was targeted 4 times. KJ Osborne was targeted 4 times. Now, if they come up again in a game where Jefferson doesn't have as beautiful of a game, then it's going to be interesting to see how those other receivers factor in.
Yeah. No.
Thielen's a very good wide
I
receiver,
think-
you know that.
I think they'll be okay because I think Adam Thielen is a guy that can beat a number 2 or 3 corner.
Do you think he's a 1B?
I think
Thielen?
in the slot position he is like
He's not
he
a
can
slot.
beat
he's a 2.
he
Is he
can
now a
beat
proper 2?
yeah
He
he
was a
can
one.
beat a 2 or 3 corner, you know. So I think they'll be
I think
okay.
I think at this moment in time,
You take out Jefferson from this team, he is a 1.
yeah, he's a 1. But the thing is, but here's
He
here's
doesn't
a
play for
question
1 for
though.
this team.
But here's a question though: can he consistently beat number 1 corners? Because
I would
you
say
got
about
to admit he's
67%
up there in
of the
age
time.
right now. So this is not a Thielen that we had like about 2-3 years ago when he was
went
really
that
good
run.
and able to be number 1 corners. But right now, Justin Jefferson is clearly number 1. He can beat number 1 prime number 1 corners in certain moments of the game. Because the thing is, in today's game, okay, here's my question to you guys: if a number 1 receiver goes against a number 1 corner,
Mhm.
how many yards receiving does he get? That means that he had a good game against a number 1 corner, considering it's kind of like best are going the best. So what would you consider a fair win for the corner? Does he have to go 100 yards? Does he get Is it 80 or
Uh-huh.
70?
If he gets like anything over,
Above
in my
80.
opinion, above 80 is considered good. Anything over 100 is overachieving. That's a good game, really good game. Over a number one corner, but 80 to 100.
And as number one corner, how much receiving yards can you give up to number one receiver?
Ideally, they want to be going 60 or
40.
less.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. So normally you look for your Justin Jeffersons against corners that are number ones, but they're young, they're not really that established.
Mhm.
You expect him to go off against elite cornerbacks. You're getting your 80. So by him getting that 80, that 70, 80 yards, it means the other receivers they go eat. They go find ways to feast on
Yep.
number two, number three cornerbacks. And I think that's what the system is with Minnesota, and we're in the league. We're now in an assigned age whereby we have excellent receivers. Long may it continue, and I hope he reached the goals he set for himself. But I don't think he'll get there, but I think he'll get pretty close.
You know what's a really interesting thing is last year he had 10 touchdowns.
He's definitely scoring more than 10.
One game.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah, I think he will. I think he breaks into that top 3 wide receiver conversation this year. He was already.
No, I think he's already there.
You think he's already there, yeah? Because he was already in.
Because I think right
in the
now
top 5. He was in the top 5, but now he's dropping into that 1, 2.
All right. Who's the top 3? Who is the top 3? Who are the top 3 wide receivers in the league right now?
Right now, Tay 1, Coop 2, Jefferson 3.
Yep.
Who number 1? Sorry.
Adams.
Tay Adams.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Not Kate. Devontae.
Yeah.
Yeah. Devontae Adams.
Devontae Adams.
No, I didn't mean K. I meant Tay. I meant Tay
Yeah,
Adams.
okay. I was like, how is it doing? How is it 5 for a female?
Hey, maybe he can play.
Tay
You know?
Adams.
Don't be fooled by them little wide receivers. They can play, you know.
Yeah.
But
yeah, he's solidified himself now. But Stephon
he's-
The
Diggs,
reason
man,
why-
he's coming too, man. He's going to do a few
All right.
things.
okay, we're gonna because we've already had an hour on the show. We're gonna move on to the next game, and the next game was the magical tie between my Indianapolis Colts and the Houston Texans, in which neither team won. And the news coming out of Indianapolis today is that Rodrigo Blankenship has been waived.
Is that your
Kicker.
kicker? Yeah.
The kicker who
That's
missed the
crazy.
42-yarder.
That's kind of, it seems as though, I mean, who greenlit that?
and
Was
he
that
hit the ball-
Ursi?
and he kicked 3 kickoffs straight out of bounds.
It seems to me like Ursi, I don't think this is just the coaching staff making that choice, man.
I don't think
I
that's
thi-
Hersey. I think that is
'Cause,
he's had. There were. The problem is he doesn't have a leg, right?
mm,
He doesn't. He cannot hit long kicks. Therefore, when though he has those shorter kicks, he needs to absolutely nail them. If you're within 50 yards, you have to
yep.
100% of the time.
Have
We
to
have-
nail
we
those
have-
I was
kicks.
just said make an
Oh,
appearance.
we have a guest. Yeah.
Yay.
Special guest star.
How's it going? It's the little one.
The mini baller from across the pond.
Mini baller.
So, as I was saying, Rodrigo Blankenship has been cut.
Yeah.
Has been waived. In this game, I just don't get it. The Colts were poor. There was one opportunity, one drive, which we had first down within the 5 yards, got stopped. Went for it on fourth, didn't kick it. If that kick would have won us the game. And then there was one where the defender timed it perfectly, looking at, like, he timed his interception of, it was a dump off pass. He caught the dump off pass. That is not on. That is an unusual
tape.
scenario from a.
Yeah.
That's just
That's
That's
film
an
study.
instinct. That's an
I think that's
instinct
film
thing as well.
study, and that's film study. So he knew the formation, and he kind of had an idea. Because if you pick off like a dump off, that means you kind of know, yeah, this is the outlet. I'm just gonna go there and take
Well,
that
I think
away.
he was there.
You know,
He was there. He
he
literally
was
just
already there.
he was already there.
He just took his arms up. Yeah. No, I think honestly, it's disappointing for your Colts, but it's not like you
We were
didn't have
bad, but we
a
still didn't
solid
lose. That was
game.
the thing.
You know, Jonathan Taylor, 161 yards on the ground, averaging 5 yards a carry, so he played well. Pittman as well, 9
Michael
receiving
Pittman,
yards,
121 yards and a
121,
touchdown.
so and a touchdown. So he played well. Like I think this is gonna be like, hopefully you realize this early. And I've been calling Matt Ryan for a while. Like Matt Ryan is a kind of QB that can keep your team together, but you're not gonna get big plays out of him anymore. You can't rely on that.
We had
Yeah.
a huge drop in the end zone. A
Yeah.
massive one, which cost us 6.
Well, I think the key is that your red zone play needs to get better as the season goes on, and I think that's a focus that probably you work on this week to try and convert all these possessions into scores to put in a better.
But guess what? In the red zone, we didn't use JT.
Hmm?
We didn't use Jonathan Taylor.
But that's the thing; it's going to get better from there. I think this is
Didn't have to use
Week
him.
1 is when you sort out these issues. You realize, okay, we need to get better in the red zone. When we get really turn them into points, and I think Matt Ryan's the type of quarterback. I think for the first time in a while, you have a quarterback.
Yeah, we do have a quarterback. We've got a very easy game this week. We're going to a place that we haven't won since 2014, and we play there every year.
Listen, I told you, Dilly, relax. Matty I's got this. He's about to change this. Like my prediction of Pittman becoming an established number 1 now is coming to fruition. Week 1, 121 yards straight away. Because Matt Ryan knows how to play with them 6'4", 6'2" plus wide receivers.
As I was saying, do you think he's going to cement himself as a top 10 receiver in the game?
Oh yeah, he's definitely going to be a top 10 receiver.
He will. He will
Definitely.
I believe in his talent. He's very, very good.
Yeah, he is. And the thing is, I bet you at the end of the year, he will say Matt Ryan has been a huge part of him taking that next step. Always when you get that elite quarterback, because I think the last couple of years with the Falcons, I felt like they failed him a little bit more than he failed them, because I saw games where he was battling and trying to get them to win, but the roster was just too depleted for him to get wins.
One position I think is a weakness is tight end. You look at that, and it's Mo Cox and Kylan Granson, and it doesn't give the best of confidence to me.
You can't trade for one mid-season.
You can try and trade. You know, Hunter Henry hasn't really panned out for the Pats.
I mean,
you know, so
you
might try and see what you can get for him.
He's on bank, isn't he?
He's injury prone. Otherwise, I'd have said he'll be a good tight end for you guys, but he's injury prone.
I think he wants to get out of the Patriots as well.
I'm talking about Max Williams for my Cardinals. He's a good tight end, but it's just like he's injury prone. He gets hurt all the time.
Now,
he was undersized.
At, Texans side, Rex Burkhead had the majority of snaps in the backfield, much to everyone's surprise. I don't think that was that surprise.
Yeah, Rex has been consistent his whole career. Like, he's a solid back from his New England days.
Davis Mills was okay, and he fed Brandon Cooks, his best player. OJ Howard coming into the team, 2 touchdowns, 2 receptions.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were like, OJ Howard is past it as a tight end and hasn't.
He got cut by the Bills.
Yeah.
I think he was always getting cut by the Bills, to be honest.
And before then, he was on the Bucks as well, wasn't he? Before then, yeah. So I think a lot of teams have said, "Well, you haven't."
Scenario where he just got sidelined.
Yeah. So it's good to see that. You know, hopefully he can find like a new career. I'll say about Davis Mills, like it's only been one game, but he's already showing like an improvement, and he's one of those guys that you forget is even a QB in this league. Like because the Texans are so irrelevant most of the time. Well, recently, especially that it's almost like you forget who their QB is, and Davis Mills had a very solid rookie campaign last year, thanks to Pep Hamilton, who still hasn't got a head coaching job in the league. He also did Andrew Luck for you guys as well, but that's neither here or there. But it's good to see that hopefully he builds on this and continues to improve. I think the Texans almost have like a Jalen Hurts situation in that this isn't the guy that they knew was going to become the main guy, but they took him and they're going to see what he can become.
I think Davis Mills is a different
type of player. Yeah,
it was a very different type of player, and I don't think the scenario is quite the same. I think Davis Mills is probably on a shorter leash than Jalen Hurts is, but I think also there's less capability behind him as well.
Yeah, but he's doing well with what he's got.
He's doing well with what he's got. One thing defensively for the Colts, it pleased me to see that Kwity Paye got a couple of sacks in this game, and they were at key times in this game. They were hugely important sacks, and it is very important for this defensive line, Kwity Paye, DeForest Buckner, Yannick Ngakoue, to really hone in on the opposition, because a lot of the time we didn't have a, like, if we look at the number of QB hits, 1, 2, 3, 5. Five QB hits in this game. It's not a lot. Didn't put him under a shed load of pressure. But good to see that Kwity Paye actually managed to get over. But Colts move on to Jacksonville next week, and we'll talk about that game on Thursday. Now, moving on to the battle of the AFC West. Vegas Chargers. Thoughts on this one, Peter?
Interesting game. Chargers played what they got the better of. I thought it was a bit of an even matchup. Both teams had their good moments, but Derek Carr, you can't throw, when you throw 3 interceptions, you're not going to win very much. So I think he needs to work out the kinks and reduce the turnovers, because throwing 3 INTs is not the way to win your football game. And I think the Chargers played really well. From a Justin Herbert point of view, he made some throws in this game. I was like, those were amazing. Like, there was one throw that he made where he threw across his body and he died it right on target. So the Chargers played very well. It was sort of like it was a typical divisional game whereby both teams are playing hard and fighting for the win. I also thought that Chandler Jones could have played better. He had no sacks in this game, and I think at some point this season he's going to have to turn it on with Max Crosby. But the Chargers have a good offensive line, especially Rashawn Slater. They were able to hold them off. But a very interesting game. Chargers deserve to win, and
Khalil Mack with 3 sacks in this game.
Hey, that's the reason why they went and got him. That's the reason why they went and got him.
1.5. Derwin James.
See, remember when I said last week in our preview show that this game comes down to which pass rushing duo is the better on that day, and the Chargers pass rushing duo proved to be the better of the two, and they kind of like dominate the line of scrimmage with those sacks.
Now, what we will say is that Devontae Adams in this game was targeted 17 times. 17 times.
Yep.
24 receptions. So, ratio-wise, 141 yards and a touchdown. You're not going to be complaining about the abilities. But if we look at the Chargers side of the ball, Mike Williams, 2 receptions, 10 yards. He's technically their wide receiver 1. He was largely ignored in this game. DeAndre Carter had a touchdown. Gerald Everett had a touchdown. Horvath had a touchdown. Keenan
I mean,
Allen came out of the game injured with an injury, and he has a hamstring injury, and it's
Yeah.
unlikely he's going to be able to play this week coming up.
Yeah,
So-
but this is good to see from like Herbert, because it means that he's sprinkling the ball around, and it's always harder for defenses to key in on one guy, you know. So
One thing they
it's
couldn't get
something you
going,
want
though,
to see.
is- One thing they couldn't get going is the running game, though. They couldn't get it going whatsoever. Eckler 14 for 36.
Sonny
Sonny
Michel.
7 for 12. Josh Kelly had the best of it, but only four carries for 21 yards. They weren't able to move that ball on the ground, and they had to rely on moving it through the air. But Justin Herbert, 129 passer rating, was great on the day.
Yep, he's gonna get a big fat
I
check.
think I think that's been the main theme of the league. I think like week one, most teams haven't really got their run games going. Certain teams need to crank up their run games.
Colts and we're gonna get onto the Giants later.
Yeah, but if you look,
That's why I said certain teams, not. I didn't say it was an issue.
Yeah. No,
Even-
not many have managed to get it.
even if you could,
Not
even
many
if you
have managed to get the run game going.
even if you take that into account, like you can still see the Chargers at least made the attempts to try and establish a run game. It just wasn't going on the day. But
Yep.
you know, so that's also a part of it. Like sometimes you don't need the running game to necessarily push through and become dominant. You just need it to keep the defense honest, you know, so that it can open up a few passing lanes and vice versa. Sometimes you have to pass as well to try and keep the defense off the line of scrimmage. If you're like a run heavy team.
Although
So,
if
but
you-
they
if
they
you
did
look at-
enough.
If you look at the stats from this game, Max Crosby had 8 solo tackles in this game alone.
We
That's a beast on the defensive line.
yeah, that's crazy.
That's
yeah.
good, but I need those tackles to turn into sacks.
One of them was for a tackle for a loss. 0 sacks. They didn't sack Herbert on the day. Once.
In the reverse fixture, they gotta get the pressure on him because, and then like I said, it comes down to the pass rushers when it comes to these two divisional matchups. But
Yep.
it was still an interesting game, and also I think next week they're gonna have to spread the ball a bit around because they can't just give all the targets to Devontae Adams though.
No, they've got to move it. They've got to spread it a little bit further. Right, next game.
Okay, before we move 1 second, well, please hands off Pep Hamilton. He's a future Arizona Cardinals head coach. Okay, so hands off him.
I don't think we'll be moving on, but yeah, Pep Hamilton needs to be a head coach in this league sooner rather than later.
Oh, he's already declared replacement. We just haven't announced it.
Yeah.
And next game. Tampa Bay, Dallas.
Oh
Dallas
boy.
are done. They are out of the playoffs after one game.
Well, unleash.
I mean, personally,
They're done.
I think it's very hard for them. This is the thing. I was bringing this up, I think, in our personal chats off the podcast. Like, this is why you've got to have a sustainable backup. You just can't get one off
I
the
don't- but you
dirt
can't-
heap.
No, but
You've got to get
who
someone
has-
that can at least play.
who has
Because
a sustainable backup?
yeah, if you're a team that wants to contend for like a divisional championship, let alone a Super Bowl, you've got to have someone that can at least hold your team together. This is such a drop off in QB play that it's going to cost them everything, really. You know, I think Dak will come back this season, but it's going to be at a point where they're systematically removed. You know, and at that point, do you really want to put your best guys out and risk injury going into the next year?
Mm-hmm.
Like, in the end of the day, I think CeeDee Lamb underperformed. You know, he was meant to come in, be their number one heading forward. But the thing is, when you got rid of what was it, Amari Cooper, I've always looked at CeeDee Lamb as a great like 1-2, you know what I mean, or an A2 receiver. So he could play really well, but I don't think he needs to feed off another guy. The guy doesn't need to be better than him, but he needs someone else, just like a Justin Jefferson has a Thielen, someone that can also get people
Pause
out.
on CD for a second. Let me make a comment before I carry on. With CD, I agree much with what you said in regards to CD Lamb, but I also feel like his development, he didn't get the luxury of growing into a number one. Like, for instance, let me take Justin Jefferson as an example. Justin Jefferson's rookie year, Thielen was number one, right, for Minnesota. So he came in, he primarily played a slot, a little bit on the outside, and he was able to dominate cornerback twos and cornerback threes. And then gradually he worked his way on taking on number one cornerbacks. And he dominated them as well. But here's the thing, though. My thing is that he started off with the twos and the threes, and then he gradually went up and took on number one cornerbacks and took him on. CD came in, and I think Dak had been injured in I think one of his seasons. I think Dak was injured for majority of the year, so they didn't establish a chemistry there. And going up, but
we've got a heckler, unfortunately, and but if I interject, so CD had 11 targets on that game, right? 11 targets, 2 receptions, 29 yards. And then the thing that actually worked for them, the player that was working for them offensively, was Zeke.
Yep.
He had 5 yards to carry.
Yep. I think, if anything,
surprising. He started off very well, and then they just shut it down. Because if you look at Tony Pollard, 6 rushes for 8 yards. They completely clamped it down.
Yeah. I think if they want to try and weather the storm, they have to lean on the run, and it doesn't help that their offensive line is one of the is one of the older offensive units in the league right now. Noah Brown as well, he played well, and like I said, they can't lean on one guy. They're gonna have to lean on everyone else on that roster has to pull their weight now. Like I said, the drop off in QB play is going to be huge.
Now, talking about wide receiver play, how good did Julio look?
I mean, he's turning back the clock. I think.
I think TB12 has made a blood sacrifice somewhere because he looked good. Like, he looked in good condition. He's on the TB12 plan.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think this is like another advertisement for Tom Brady's personal
Remember what I said, guys. Listen.
How to elongate your career. Like, after they see what happens to Julio, maybe Adrian Peterson and them guys need to hop in.
Listen, he got all of them on the HGH.
It's that Michael Secret stuff.
That's the HGH. I'm telling you, when Tom Brady's retired and there's gonna be stuff saying that he's been on HGH for years, and that's what's happening.
Try and keep it quiet, but it's not gonna be possible.
Listen, I'm letting you guys know right now. I know it, but I'm just letting you guys know. I'll be surprised when it comes out, and we won't find out until he's long retired. Remember Lance Armstrong, champion cyclist. 7-time Tour de France champion, world record setting.
0-time Tour de France champion.
Yeah, but it's turning back the clock. It's turning back the clock.
Yeah, he's now 0-time.
They've now erased it, but when he was playing, listen.
I think Peter's struggling. We'll carry on. Carry on there. But Lenny, in this game, 21 carries, 127 yards, and
I think everyone was worried about his weight.
It was a blindside block. It was not a blindside block, and there's a reason behind it not being a blindside block.
Okay, explain. Because I thought it was.
It wasn't blindside, man. He was right in front of him.
Because he was right in front of him.
He's right in front of him.
He was traveling in the direction of the play. He's not traveling.
No, but
it was a high hit.
But here's what I don't like about it is because he was engaged with the offensive lineman.
That's a legal
No, but
play.
hold on a second though. That could have potential career implications because the thing is that
from the game then, but then it's
No,
until
come on now. It wasn't even a block. It was like he just body checked him big time. It wasn't even a block. It was
That's
like
the
sucker punching
intensity of the
someone. That's what it
game.
felt
It's
like.
the
I
intensity
mean,
of the game.
defensive, like for defensive players, we hate that because we can't sucker punch an
so wait a
offensive
minute.
lineman.
Is
But
this
you
just
have to chip
is this
him.
just
You have to
defensive
chip
line?
him.
But that
It's
was the chip though.
a lot of
That
defensive
was like
players like
sucker punching
it
somebody.
was a big blow, but Leonard Fournette, I think,
He's a
is
big
only
guy. He's
20
short, yeah.
pounds less than Michael Parsons. Like, and he's still trying to slim down even more. That's a big hit. Like, it was in front of him. It was pad level, so it wasn't like he went to his gut. He didn't go to his thigh or any lower
He
than
didn't go
that.
for his
It
helmet or
was
anything
pad
like
level.
that.
He didn't go for his helmet. This is a known offensive way of dealing with disruptive pass rushers. Michael Parsons has to understand the great people, the best pass rushers always get chipped. This is what's going to happen to him throughout his career because they have to slow him down. Because if you look at his production, you know,
That man.
he's already got 2 sacks. He was playing really well, 4 tackles as well. So he's already on that role. So they had to minimize him because if he could
No,
have
but
taken over this game if they weren't careful. So what they sent help. So I understand it didn't look good. And Micah was probably not expecting it, you know, but he wasn't in front of him. But I understand
But
he's
but
focused
you know
on
what? He
beating his
wasn't.
man up
But
front, and then he
he
gets
no.
blown
So
from the side.
so the guy he'd so the guy that he was engaged with was already backpedaling. There was already a good yard between them.
Yeah.
yeah, but if he's backpedaling, you came in and you sucker punch me. Like if your offensive line is not good enough and you be sent to come and chip, like
This
come on, chip me properly.
wait a minute,
I
isn't
think
this a man's game we're talking about?
Yeah, I
Is it?
think they didn't need to chip him
Listen,
because I think
it's
the
fine.
offensive lineman had already won. He'd held him
It's
back
fine.
enough.
Like, look,
No, I don't think he had won though. I think he had
listen,
lost. I
Micah
think he was
Parsons
going
will
to go
file it away. And next time he sees Leonard Fournette, we'll see in it. I'll file it away. Next time we play, we'll see.
Well,
And the thing is,
it's not going to be this
uh,
season because they're not making the playoffs.
well, they play every year now. The Bucks and Cowboys is now becoming a fixture. They'll play again next year. They'll open up all the time. And anyway, one last thing I wanted to say quickly is that Dan Quinn, please stop playing my linebacker. He's a pass rusher. Let him go get a quarterback. I thought he could have had 4 sacks in this game, but
Yep.
they just didn't let him rush. Let him rush. Just let him play defensive end. That's it. Why are you playing him as a linebacker and rotating him? Let that guy go get a
Absolutely.
quarterback.
One thing I've got to add to this as well as to why the Dallas Cowboys are in such a big pit. Who do they have as their head coach? Who's going to weather them through
Mike.
this?
Right.
That's all I need to say. Mike McCarthy,
So-
when he
right.
doesn't have the guy there, good
We're
luck.
going to move this swiftly on. New England, Miami. Battle in the 75% humidity, 95 degree, 95 Fahrenheit. Or was it 98 Fahrenheit? It was disgusting, the weather down there. And it looked like New England got boiled alive.
Yeah,
It was the weather. Yeah, I'll blame the weather.
Do you think
Yeah,
it's
but do
just
you-
the weather?
do you still think they would have won? Because having a look at that Pats defense, I'm sort of looking around and I'm being like, well, it was expected that they would struggle against the 2 speedsters that Miami has, you know.
Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill,
yep.
they're a problem.
Yeah, exactly. Especially when they're both on the same team, you don't know who's going to stop who. You know, Jalen Waddle got a TD, 69 yards, 4 receptions, but then Tyreek as well, 8 receptions for 94. Both of these guys averaging in the teens. You know, it's an insane tandem. And then you have Chase Edmonds as well in there. You know, Cedric Wilson. I think it's safe to say that Tua was throwing the ball around. He just kind of had his way, and it's good to see him a year after having the injury he sustained in Alabama before his rookie season. I think this is going to be a good year, and it's going to make a lot of people feel really good about him moving forward as the franchise QB. But if you're the Pats, I mean, I was talking about it last week. Who's calling your plays on offense? You know, who? They weren't very clear about that. Are they still experimenting? Because you can't experiment now when you're losing games like this. They didn't
They
look
lost
good
the
out
pattern.
there.
They were never in this game,
Exactly.
as far as I'm
Exactly.
concerned.
I love Bill Belichick. Rose-tinted glasses aside, you don't have a Tom Brady there to cover up your errors. I still think he's the GOAT of head coaches, but he needs to be careful because if he doesn't start, he needs to put pieces around him. The thing is, he has the ultimate power. He's the head coach and the GM, but he needs to get pieces around him now, have people on offense, fix up, draft and bring in free agents with high skill sets. Draft the best player available, superstars. You need that on your team, or else it's going to be an uphill
They
struggle.
spent so much money, and it hasn't really got them anywhere.
They spent money on pieces.
But it just doesn't seem to have worked at all.
It's not going to work. Their defense, I mean, they've got that they're old on the defense. I can't name anyone on that defensive roster except for maybe Devin McCourty, but everyone else is who, what position do they play? They let guys leave the team as well. That they had a Stephon Gilmore here rather than re-up on his contract and keep him here, let him finish his career as a Pat. No, let's move on. It's going to be a hard season, and I don't think Mac Jones is the type of QB that's going to take over a game yet. 21 attempts for 30, 213 yards, 1 TD, 1 INT. That obviously didn't help, but it's not the same division anymore. Like you're not going to get 5-6 seasons with the best QBs being Mark Sanchez and I don't know, Mark Sanchez. Like outside of Tom Brady,
You look at that division,
it's yeah.
like they've got two teams now to deal with. They haven't got nobody has the chance to deal with. They seem to be perpetually losing, but we'll get on to them last in the out of the games. Miami, they look good, offensively and defensively. It's just roll on next week for them, really, and see how they continue it on, and see how that speedster duo.
Give Pats till, in terms of my Patriots, give us till week 5.
Your Patriots or do your Patriots?
I'll say I like the Patriots because of Bill. That's why I'm saying give me to week 5. It's still week 1. Bill is still figuring it out.
Now,
Yeah, Bill Belichick. Let's see.
So if we look at the schedule now, they have
Steelers.
They've got the Steelers, Ravens, Packers next 3 games.
Who's calling that the offense, and who have you got on defense?
They've
I mean,
got Ravens.
against
That game is against Ravens, so you expect them to get steamrolled. The game against the Packers at Lambeau. That's a horror. That's not an easy game, I don't think, actually, for Packers, because that's the kind of game that Bill will probably get his team up for it. But we'll see how it goes. Next game up, is this the upset of the week? New York Giants beating the Tennessee Titans. I think so. It's the upset of the week as far as I'm concerned. And how good did our boy Saquon look in this game?
I'm so happy for him. Like, this is his contract year as well, so he needs this. Not just that, but New York need this as well. I've always found it really interesting how, as like a head coach, you can, like, if you look at what Joe Judge did, he didn't really, even when Saquon was healthy, he didn't really utilize him as much. But as soon as Dabo's come in, he's been like, yep. Brian Daboll, he's been like, yep, we're going to run the ball. We have Saquon Barkley as our back. This is what he can do, So it's amazing to see. And it's almost like this needs to be the identity of the team. Daniel Jones.
164 yards.
Yep.
And then another 30 on the ground, in the air.
Insane. Averaging 9.1 yards a carry. Even Daniel Jones, of course, he's going to throw an INT, which he did. 17 for 21, 188. 2 TDs to 1 INT.
Out of his 4 incompletions, one of them was an interception.
Yep. insane. But I mean, it's awesome to see Sterling Shepard. You run, establish the run so you can pass the ball. You know, this was long overdue. I think New York needed a game like this, and it's a great win to start off the Brian era over in New York. Much needed. So I'm happy for them. In regards to the Tennessee Titans, I'm obviously they gave us AJ Brown, so I'll always be thankful. But now you're starting to see the repercussions of that because you haven't got anyone on the outside. You've got a young rookie in, I believe it's Traylon Burks,
Mm-hmm.
who's trying to refill that role, but he's going to take time for him to grow into that position. But this is the thing. When you have no one outside that the defense fears,
Do you know what the really weird thing was? Robert Woods just was anonymous in this game. Completely.
he's been in the league a long time, man.
But he played well. He played well for the Rams until his injury.
Yep.
His injury derailed him. He had 2 targets, 1 reception.
Yeah, he's been in the
The
league a
target
lot.
in this game was Kyle Phillips, and then it was Traylon Burks.
Traylon Burks, which is good to see.
Derrick Henry in this game, 21 for 82. Nothing special.
Nothing special, but serviceable.
Serviceable, but you look at it, it's Saquon. I think Saquon won this game. And
Yep.
and that
He was the
defense
better
at times
back.
For if you look at was it the defense or was it the special teams? Because it just seemed like Tennessee had the opportunity to win this game and they just didn't.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's not going to get any easier for them. Like I said, when you got rid of a piece,
Yes, they did have the opportunity because they missed the field goal at the end of the game.
yeah,
And I was
so they're
saying,
unhappy about that. Yeah, they're unhappy about that. But yeah, when you get rid of a guy like an AJ Brown, it's going to just allow teams to tee off on you a lot more. It's going to be a lot harder for Ryan Tannehill because he hasn't got that safety blanket that he can throw to. It just makes it harder. Teams can really stack the box now, and they're going to force guys like Traylon Burks to beat them. And it's not going to happen all the time because he's still finding his feet. He's still adjusting to the NFL speed. So yeah, it's going to be a long season.
That call to go for 2, that took a lot of cojones. A lot of cojones to go for 2 when you can just tie the ball. I think it's what it is if you had gone for 1,
Yep.
they still could have easily have lost that game. Right? They could have easily have lost this game because they could have kicked that field goal and the game is done because there's that much time. So going for that is if they kick it, okay, they win. But if they don't kick it, then that's how they got the victory. So, hey, great for the Giants. Good to see them win. And in my humbly biased opinion, it's great to see the Tennessee Titans lose because obviously it helps.
I think it's
be top of the division.
I think it's going to be an uphill season for them the whole year. That they're going to have to find a way to win with what they've got.
Well,
they gave the Titans. Yeah.
I think Derrick Henry will kill a few teams.
With New York, what was I going to say? Last week, we said that.
Who the Titans have next?
Who?
The Bills.
Okay, 0-2 to begin.
Bills, and then they have the Raiders.
Okay, so that's something they. Okay, so that's stuff they can work through. But trust me, when teams get desperate, I wouldn't be surprised if the Tennessee Titans call up the Rams and are like, "Hey, listen, we need a guy." And that's always an indictment on a GM because when that happens, it's like you had a guy here,
have them spare.
And yeah,
they don't.
It's true.
The Rams don't have the guy spare, so it's going to be interesting to see how. The Titans.
Yeah. Whenever that stuff happens, I'm always looking because the GMs always start to sweat because it's like you had a guy here, you let him go, and now you're using our resources to replace him with someone else. We could have just kept him here. You know what I mean? So it's just one of those things.
Moving on to the next one. Next game, the Monsoon Bowl.
Yeah.
San Francisco, Chicago. I'm pleasantly pleased for Justin Fields to have won that game.
Yep.
But do we think we can read anything into this game? To the weather?
I mean, the fact that he was still able to play at the level needed to secure a win in the monsoon is great. You know, one thing I will say is looking at both quarterbacks, Justin Fields was picked after Trey Lance, and the way it's looking so far, Justin Fields was the better quarterback. He was more prepared. Neither of them were good, but I think it was considering the weather, it was good to see that he was still able to play. 8 for 17, 121 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 INT. You know, in terms of his receivers, I think who did he have? Dante Pettis with 51 yards. You know, I think in games like this, you've got to lean on the run a lot, which they did, but even that didn't get going. You know, so I think it was more like a balanced team win, like an overall team win on both sides of the ball. San Fran, I think, underperformed. You know, Trey Lance.
So Elijah Mitchell is injured.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a big loss to them, I think.
Well, they got Juwan Jennings, Brandon Ayuk, who I think finished second in terms of receiving yards for this game. Debo had himself an okay evening.
Debo didn't do anything really.
Yeah.
He was more in the rushing game than in the receiving game.
Yeah, which is what he doesn't like. But I guess if you want to win games.
But actually, it's the weather conditions.
Yeah.
That's what it was. We're going to put it down to that, and I don't think there's too much to be read into this game. I think we'll look at that team when they're not in.
When it's warm weather.
When they're not playing in Lake Michigan. In Lake. It looked like Lake Michigan had overtaken that stadium. All right.
Yeah.
Philly, Detroit.
Oh man.
On this one. It was a close
yeah.
game.
Yeah. No. Extremely close game. I thought that the Detroit Lions were able to stay in this game a lot. I mean, I wasn't expecting it to be so close, you know, but I think that's just a testimony to how much Detroit has improved. DeAndre Swift had an absolute tear of a game. Like, he was playing really well. 15 carries for 144. He was averaging 9.6. Yeah, exactly. So it was one of those games where they established the run really well, and I didn't like that at all. I think when you look at the defensive front that we have and the guys that we have on the interior, the linebackers, this is the thing. Like, we have our DC Gannon. He just rushes 4, and he doesn't rush linebackers, you know, and that's what he needs to start doing. I think if we underperform on defense this season, I think he's gone as the DC, because we have way too much talent to be a passive defense, you know.
Do you know how many sacks do you think he had in that game?
In my Eagles? 0, right? I don't think we got any.
1.
We got 1.
Shared sack between Cox and Graham.
Yeah, that's inexcusable, man. Like,
against Jared Goff,
who's not really a high octane mover, but if you look at the pieces we have on that defensive line, like, that shouldn't be happening. We should at least be able to get home on a few plays. You know, there was an interesting stat I saw. You know, Jordan Davis didn't really get as many reps as people wanted, but there was a big difference in the production of the Detroit offense when Jordan Davis was there. Like, they just weren't able to move the rock on the ground on his snaps. If he was on the field, it almost halved their yardage, period. So everyone was like, he should have been there. That you should just make him the starter at interior tackle. He's more than ready for it, you know.
Okay.
But yeah,
Are you
Detroit.
worried about Devontae Smith?
No, not really.
12 targets, he got goose egged.
Not really, only because I know that Jalen Hurts is not that good of a passer with the football.
Him targeting AJ Brown in that game,
Yeah,
10
yeah.
to
I
30,
mean,
155.
this is the thing I heard from like a corner. I think it was an NFL corner during an interview. Like quarterbacks that aren't very accurate like big targets.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the smaller receivers, the one who are sleeker, more sleek,
They're more of a difficult
they're a
target.
harder target to hit. Which is why when Carson Wentz was at the Eagles, he loved Alshon Jeffrey. He kept going to him because he was a big target, hard to miss. So if you're not very accurate as a quarterback, you struggle hitting smaller receivers or even more like Leith receivers. I'm not too concerned because I think Smith was doing his job. He was getting open, and I think he'll continue to get open. It's not his fault that Jalen Hurts is finding it harder to hit him. He's going to be hitting AJ Brown and Dallas Goedert a lot more than Devontae Smith, unfortunately, and that's how it's going to be heading forward. You know, Miles Sanders had a touchdown, which was really good to see, considering he didn't have. I don't think he had any touchdowns last season. This is his first touchdown he's received in 2 seasons. So I don't think he had any
96
last year.
yards of 13 carries.
Yeah, so that was good to see. Hopefully, seeing as it's a contract year, they obviously, I hope to see them lean on him a lot more. But yeah, no, it was an awesome game.
I am a Miles Sanders stan in this, so
Yeah,
I firmly believe in his talent. Detroit Lions played very well, just came up short. I think they're gonna turn some heads this season.
yeah, they'll win a few games for sure.
Right, moving on to the next one quickly. Cleveland, Carolina. So both revenge games were lost by the revenging quarterbacks.
Yeah, I think Baker obviously,
Good.
yeah, he stunk it up right at the start, but just like typical Baker, he suddenly starts to play a lot better in the second half towards the tail end, but it's too little too late. You know, they couldn't overcome the errors that he had.
They vastly ignored Christian McCaffrey.
Yep. I don't know what that is. For me, it seems like perhaps they're a bit too tentative coming off injury. They don't want to sort of give him the workload.
Game, they ignored him.
Yeah, I honestly don't know what that is.
It felt very weird.
Yeah, Nick Chubb on the other hand, on the other side of the ball, like he played well. 22 carries, 141 yards. No TDs, but he was great on the ground, and that was backed up with Kareem Hunt, you know, as well, who managed to get one touchdown.
In the entire game.
Yeah.
So he got both the touchdowns, one on the ground, one in the air.
Yeah. I can't seem to recall. Did this come down to special teams as well a little bit? Or was it more of like it doesn't look like it did, but all I'm saying is that for the Panthers, you can't lose. Yeah, you can't lose to Jacoby Brissett, man. You can't lose to Jacoby Brissett. If you know the team's not going to get the QB play needed to beat you, like, you should be able to pull away. You know, I know people don't fire coaches mid-season, but if the Carolina Panthers continue to like underperform until the after it gets halfway through the season into the bye, I can see them moving on from Matt Rule because he's mortgaged away their future. He's got rid of quarterbacks and then brought them back into the building. It just seems like this franchise needs like a reset. I think Baker is serviceable over there, and I think he's a good QB for them to have, but you can't be losing against a Jacoby Brissett-led Cleveland Browns. They have an awesome roster, but you should be able to overcome the QB play.
Yeah. All right.
100%.
Fast forward to the next game. Washington Jags. Carson Wentz looked good in this game, and he does tend to look good in some games, and he looks terrible in others. And this is just the roller coaster ride that everyone gets with Carson Wentz.
Yep. I think you know all too well. You can't really look at this game and be like, yeah, this guy's amazing. He's going to lead us there. It's the Jags. It's the London Jags. Yeah, Carson Wentz did have a hell of a game.
Jahan Dotson, 2 touchdown receptions. That was good to see.
Yep. What else have we got? Antonio Gibson.
Got a good snag, but
yep.
Antonio Gibson had a very good game. If you look at the total scrimmage yards, 130.
Yeah.
And because he was a receiver in college, so he's going to be very good in the passing game. So that was definitely good to see.
Christian Kirk
for Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Jacksonville, they managed to run the ball well.
Not really. I mean, last year they
averaged 10 yards a carry each.
Yeah, I mean, last year they brought in Etienne. Obviously he was injured last year and hadn't played, but they didn't really need to draft a running back so high, and they did. But obviously that's really the fault of the last regime. Mm-hmm. One thing I want to say is Christian Kirk, which they acquired from Arizona, and a lot of people still say they overpaid for him, and I believe they did as well. He actually played okay, 6 receptions, 117 yards. But that being said, it wasn't enough to sort of help the team. I think as the season goes on, they're going to realize they basically flushed a lot of money down the toilet, paying that much for a slot receiver. But that's what I think personally.
It was looking good with 10 minutes to go. Just 11 minutes to go for the Jags, and then Carson Wentz led the comeback, and that's how it was. It's going to be interesting to see how those teams actually move on. But now we go on to the New York Chokers. Atlanta Falcons choked again. This time against the New Orleans Saints. Saints, I don't think they're getting the playoffs this year.
Yeah, there's a lot of people saying, if Jameis Winston plays well, like, to be honest, all he's got to do is look after the football. He can throw deep, he can make all the throws. He's just got to protect the football. If he minimizes turnovers, the Saints can do damage in the league and push a bit further than everyone expects them to.
They just about scraped past the Atlanta Falcons. Come on.
Yeah, it's true. This wasn't like a good game for them, 100%. Marcus Mariota led Atlanta Falcons. He didn't really do too much. 20 for 33, 215.
Jameis actually had a good game.
Yeah.
Look at it, his numbers. But I think what it was in this game is Cordero Patterson has just properly just nailed himself in this role. 5 yards to carry, and
he is a running back now. He is running back. Came into the league as a wide receiver / returner. Now he's fully a running back, and he's carved out his niche. Drake London, 5 receptions for 74 yards. This is his rookie debut. He's outplayed Kyle Pitts in this game, and they're both kind of big body guys. So I look forward to seeing those two guys grow together, and I think they'll be really well. What they need, though, is a QB there to sort of keep this team relevant. Defensively as well, they kind of need to like retool that whole defense, almost start like a hard reset. Yeah.
Yep.
But
I don't know where New Orleans are going to be, but it was actually what was good to see was Michael Thomas playing well.
Yep.
2 touchdowns on the day, and I'm going to be interested to see how Olave kind of gradually ramps throughout the season. Last game, Baltimore, New York Jets. Baltimore, nice and comfortable for them. New York Jets, Are they ever going to be good?
Man, they had such an amazing off-season and draft. Everyone was like they've turned a corner. If people were expecting them to lose this game, but they weren't expecting them to stink it up this badly. So I think,
They didn't get obliterated. That's the thing. They kept it
yeah, they just
respectable.
didn't play up to where they needed to. You know,
Also, they had Flacco playing. They didn't have their actual quarterback, and Flacco, as we know, is very much past it.
yep,
So I think we'll put this game down to okay.
no QB.
Don't have a starting QB. Let's actually judge them from when they're actually at full strength.
Yeah, Lamar Jackson, I was going to say, he's basically just counting down how he performs, and he's going to say, yep, that's another 2 million, that's another 1 million. So the longer they hold back on paying him, the more they're going to have to pay. So that's what it's going to be.
Now, Ball of the Week. Who is your nomination?
I think I'm going to go with Saquon Barkley.
And my baller of the week is going to be Josh Allen.
Yep.
And that leads into my baller play of the week. My baller play of the week is when Josh Allen sent the defensive back into next week. Because that was just disgusting.
Yeah.
What is your play of the week? What is your baller play of the week?
Minka Fitzpatrick field goal block. Like, it's not a glamorous play, but it's actually very hard to block a field goal, considering that whole line up front is to prevent anyone from getting into that kicking box. And he was able to do so. If he doesn't make that play, they lose that game, you know? So it was really good to see that. And it's a rare play, you know? Steelers being the Steelers, just out coaching the other team, out scheming guys, regardless of who they have on the field.
All right. Well, there we have it. Week 1 wrapped up. We're going to send, as we do now, we're going to send a raid off. But we're going to raid a fan of the New York Giants. He is not playing Madden as we normally choose. He's playing Major League Baseball, but we're going to send it off to him. I know him from the baseball community, but he was very, very happy and very pleased. And he does trading card openings. So he does it sometimes for the NFL, predominantly Major League Baseball, but we'll send it off to him, and we will catch everybody next time in 7, 6, 5, 4, 3,
Over and out.
1, and we